Hello, my name is Nurtal Shah. I am the apper for our group MyACL, and this is Pai and Ala. And the motivation for MyACL comes from my work as a physiotherapist. And the ACL, or the anterior cruciate ligament, is a ligament in the knee that is torn in sports and physical activity. And you may have heard of some of these athletes that have torn their ACLs. Marcus Stroman of the Toronto Blue Jays being the most recent. And unfortunately, he just tore it 2 weeks ago. And after this type of tear, what you need to do is you need to reconstruct the ligament surgically by using one of two ligaments inside your own knee. So it happens in professional athletes, but it also happens in the average recreational athlete and most of my patients. Annually in the United States, it's about 100,000 people that undergo this particular surgery every year. The post-surgical rehabilitation entails 6 to 8 months of therapy, exercises, and the cost is roughly $3,500 to $4,000, and that's just the cost for rehabilitation, not including medication and crutches and everything else. So there's a problem with this process. It's obviously long, but usually it's a day surgery that takes about 3 to 4 hours, and you leave the hospital with crutches and a brace on, and you're given a couple pieces of paper that say, here's what you need to do for the next 8 months. Go find a physiotherapist. So it's quite overwhelming for somebody to just come out of anesthetic and get all this information. Also, the process is very lengthy, so a lot of patients, they lose motivation, so they're not continuing on with their rehabilitation, and a lot of this leads to people not returning to their prior level of sport and physical activity, which was the whole point of the surgery in the first place. One of the reasons that compliance drops off is also because the patient has no way to track their own progress. They don't really know how they're doing. They also don't have a mental timeline. I have a timeline because I can kind of see this is where they are, this is where they need to be in 4 months, but they don't necessarily have a timeline of where they're going with their care. So MyACL is proposed as a solution for this problem, and basically what MyACL provides is a guide for the patient to tell them, here's where you are, here's where you need to go. And it gives them everything from a daily plan. It tells them, here's what you need to do just for today, and here's what you need to do a week from now, a month from now, and 4 months from now. It also allows them to track their own progress, gives them progress summaries, and as a physiotherapist, I can also look at the patient's progress as well.
So now we're going to go over the overall design of our app. When a user first enters our application, they'll be greeted with a profile creation page. The two key information that we take from this page is the surgery date as well as the graft site. From the surgery date, we can generate one of two protocols that Nurtal has wrote for us, and we can use the surgery date to create a custom plan based on the start date. After they create their profile, the profile is saved locally on the phone itself and is sent to an API that we have created. We have also created a physiotherapist view that can consume our API and display the data to the physiotherapist. And now we're going to go through a short demo about a scenario where I'm the patient 6 weeks into our rehabilitation process and what I'll be doing for that day.
Okay, so this is Pai's homepage, and you can see up top that she has 1 day left of 6 weeks. That's why the Wednesday is highlighted. And she has 2 exercises remaining. This little green circle represents her progress. So she wants to start her exercises for today. So below you can see all the exercises she's completed and then the 2 that she still needs to do. So she decides, I'm going to do my knee bending and straightening stuff right now. So there she's presented with a picture of what she needs to do along with the description and the exact repetitions and sets specific for that particular day at week 6, day 7. And if she goes through, she sees that there are 4 items that she needs to swipe through, and each one of those items pertains to that category of knee bending and straightening. And she can go through and read the instructions, follow through with those. And when she's done, she comes back to this screen and she swipes across and indicates that she has done that particular exercise, and it's added to the completed section. Because it's the last day of week 6, she also needs to measure her range. So by pressing here, this is where it connects to my knee. And she's going to go ahead and measure her knee. It was her right knee that she had surgery on, and she wants to start the measure.
Attach the phone to your ankle, get into the start position, and wait for instructions.
So this is strapped to her leg. That's going to be her starting position.
Measurement started. Bend as much as you can and hold for 3 seconds.
And she's going to bend her knee up like this, and her knee's particularly stiff, so she's going to stop about there. She can't bend it any further.
Measurement complete.
So 103 degrees of range of motion at week 6. That's pretty
Started
far
at 1
behind.
degrees, ended at 104 degrees. Range of motion is 103 degrees.
Okay, and now she's measured, so now she can go back to the MyACL app, and it pops back to the home screen where it shows her she's completed all of her exercises. So great. Now, Pi can also go through, and here's a timeline of her post-operative rehab, and this is from day 1, the day of her surgery, all the way up to 24 weeks or 6 months, which is when she should return back to sport and physical activity. You can see here that everything, all the weeks that have passed are in green. Her current week is week 6, and following weeks are in yellow. Now, Pi's getting particularly discouraged. She wants to return to basketball, and all she's doing is bending her knee. So she pops ahead to week 12 and says, what can I do when I get to week 12? Well, when she gets to week 12, hey, look at that, she can start jumping. So she can kind of see ahead and say, okay, in 6 weeks from now, I'll be doing jumping, which is exciting. So from there, Pi can also look at her progress. This is just an overall view of where she is in her 6-month program. So she has, she's completed 24% of her protocol, and she has 76% left. And she was very discouraged until she saw that keep going in the middle motivational quote, and she thought, this is great, I'm going to keep going. This is tracking her range of motion, so these values come directly from my knee. And she can see that how she's progressing through her range of motion. And this is purely just a frequency in terms of how many times a week is she doing her exercises. She do all of them in week 1, week 2, or is she doing only 50% of them? And the last page is basically the settings where she can turn notifications on and off. And if she jumps to her profile, that's all the information that she entered. But I, as a physiotherapist, can look at her ID number, which is 000, and jump over here to the physiotherapist view. And when I enter in 0 here, right, I get all of Pi's progress. So I can see that her last measurement was 117 degrees, so she's kind of falling behind a little bit. And all the exercises that she's completed and the ones not checked off are the ones that she has not been doing so well. Okay, so the key learning, the biggest thing for me was to try to translate written published protocols and research into a database. I had to learn how to use a database, but just translating that information into a database for me was very challenging. I learned a great deal about user interface from Alla and Pi, who are fantastic at it, and told me I was terrible at it. And just trying to convey physical therapy information and rehabilitation information, which in my head makes a lot of sense, trying to convey that in a way that anybody that picks up the app could understand.
From a programmer point of view, what we have learned, we know now how an ACL post-surgery, what is the role for a physiotherapist in this whole project, how to look at a project from a non-technical point of view and understand the requirement and listen to non-technical people and know how to engage with them. One thing that we would, the one thing that we have done differently if we start all over again is that instead of storing both protocol databases on the phone, on the mobile for the user, we would do on a server, and then whenever he enters his choice of the type of his surgery, it will be populated automatically to his phone. For future work, we want to do some usability testing on patients. We want to add more protocols for ACL. We would like to have professional pictures for the exercises. We want to add a level of security on the server for a login so a different physiotherapist can enter. In real world, we want to migrate it to a more reliable server with more infrastructure, and finally to release the application on Google Play Store so people can start using it. Thank you. If you have any question.
Hey, that's just great work. Long talk, but great work. I have a question. If the patient falls behind, like just somehow misses time, is there a way the app deals with that, or is time inexorable in terms of the app time?
No, so it doesn't. No, it doesn't change the protocol. It does work just purely on date. Because there's just too many variables there to consider, because they could fall behind in one component. It's a good idea for the future. It would
we
just
have
require a lot
discussed
of,
this.
it's what we talked about initially, but it's just too complicated to figure out which exercise they need to continue doing, which ones they can stop doing, what week they're in. Like, it just got very, very confusing.
I appreciate that's complicated. After I thought of that question, it made me wonder if you were to begin to deploy this and test it, stuff like that would happen.
Right.
And so, do you have any thoughts about how you would test?
What our whole idea was, is this not to replace the physiotherapist? It will be just to go a helping aid for the patient when he is away from the physiotherapist. So,
No, I understand that, but my question is, you've got an app, it's a medical thing, it needs testing, stuff will go wrong, but how would you test it? Like, what kind of experiment would you plan?
So my intention is just to give it to my patients. So I see at least 2 people that have had an ACL reconstruction per week at least, if not more. So I would give it to them to use and do usability testing in that way. So actually have them use it and have them tell me which parts work, which parts don't, what instructions help, what instructions don't, things like that.
What we've thought about is having sort of a reset button on the profile page where we can, if they went to Nurtle and he said, okay, I need you to go back to, say, week 3, you could just enter in, reset to week 3, and from there on, you wouldn't change certain exercises. You'd sort of have to follow everything, but from week 3 onwards.
yes.
Yeah, I just want to follow up from that point. I mean, the app is providing you with a lot of information, so ideally it has to serve a purpose. And I guess the question is, how would is it going to change your management of that patient by providing those numbers, and how would that impact the app? And then the other question is, compliance is such a big issue with people. If someone has missed a day or 2 days or 3 days, is the onus going to be on you to call the patient? How much time is going to pass before you sort of intervene? Because you want the app to sort of provide you with more information than you already have now to sort of improve the treatment of ACL. So how would that impact that?
So it would change treatment in that if they're measuring the range of motion at home, I'm seeing them once a week and I see that they're 20 degrees behind when they measured a week ago, then that's going to change treatment-wise what I do. It's also going to change what I give them to do on their own. So I'm going to say, exercise number 5, you're actually going to do it twice a day instead of once a day because you're actually falling behind. So it would change my management in that way. I think for the patient, it will be a source of motivation, hopefully, that they're seeing where they are and, oh, I need to do more of this or less of that. And I think you're right, it will provide a lot of information, but it actually gives them some metrics that they possibly never had before. And things that, a lot of patients think they're doing really well. And then they come in to see me and there are certain things that they've just missed in their protocol because they thought they weren't as important. They're like, oh, I just didn't do those things, and that's where they sometimes fall behind.
Yeah, so obviously this would apply more generally in any recovery scenario with physio or monitoring by a doctor. Why did you guys choose ACL in particular?
I chose ACL because it's probably the best researched in terms of protocols. So surgical protocols come about because a surgeon has gone through and done a lot of research and said this is the best thing for the patient to do from day 1 to week 24, or they come about because it's what they got from their preceptor when they were in surgery. So ACL probably has the largest body of evidence behind it to say that here are the best things to do in the protocol. So it has the most information, and I can probably justify it the most, releasing it and feeling comfortable that there's a strong body of evidence to support do this on this day because it's supposed to help.
Great. Great work.